There's a few things about Georgia that people who don't live here assume about the state. And if I had never lived here, I would say these are the reasons why I would give you as to why I would never live here. Hi, I'm Sarah Maslowski with KeyPoint Homes Group, a local real estate agent serving the North Metro Atlanta area, and I specialize in helping people from all over the country and world relocate right here to Georgia. So what are the 5 reasons I would never move to Georgia if I didn't already live here? As a first-time home buyer, I would not move to Georgia. Well, to North Georgia, that is. That is, unless I worked for one of the many major companies here and made a great salary, which is the whole appeal of living in North Georgia. However, let's pretend we're in the past about 16 years ago when I was a school teacher and needed to buy my first home. If that happened today, it would be very hard to buy a home here in North Georgia with that salary, unless I had been saving up for a long time and had a significant other who also contributed a lot financially. That's not to say that if you're a teacher or anything else that doesn't have a massive salary, you won't be able to afford a home here in North Georgia, but there are most likely not going to be many options in your price point. I recently made a video about home prices here in the North Metro area, and I talked about how out of all the single family homes listed for sale in the 5 surrounding counties of Hall, Jackson, Barrow, Gwinnett, and Forsyth, less than 4% of them are under $300,000. Now, the reason it is much more expensive to live here in the North Metro area compared to, let's say, South Georgia or another state in the Southeast is because there are so many opportunities and amenities. Like I mentioned earlier, the job market here is pretty great, and oftentimes most of the people I work with who are moving here are coming specifically for a job, and usually a pretty good paying one. Like I mentioned, you can find a home in South Georgia at a much more affordable price point than you can here in North Georgia, but you just aren't going to have the same access to all the great shopping and amenities, jobs, and so on. One thing that makes home prices here a little more tolerable is our low property taxes. I like to tell people that a good rule of thumb when trying to determine the property taxes for a house here is usually right about 1% of the purchase price. Some counties it's a little bit higher, and some counties it's lower. For example, Forsyth County, where Cumming and parts of Alpharetta are located, has an effective tax rate at 0.9%. In Gwinnett County, where Beaufort and Suwannee are located, you're going to have a little bit higher effective tax rate at 1.3%. And Hall County, which is where Gainesville and Flowery Branch are, it's just over 1%. Now, Georgia's state average is 0.92%. Now, if you compare that to towns in Pennsylvania, where the average is 1.58%, or New Jersey, which is almost 2.5%, Georgia has quite the savings. Now, I would not move to Georgia if you don't like friendly people. What? It sounds like I'm trying to use reverse psychology on you, but I mean it. The South is known for being a friendly place. They don't call it Southern hospitality for nothing. I hear from people who move here from other parts of the country time and time again, especially from California and New York, that they are shocked at how nice the people are and how often strangers try and talk to you. When you are driving through a neighborhood in Georgia and you drive past another car, you give them a wave. If you pass someone walking their dog, you wave. You kind of do the little head nod and smile. If you're walking through a parking lot and a car stops for you, you wave. If you're trying to get something off a shelf in the grocery store and someone else is looking at it, you say, I'm just gonna scoop past you real quick. If you go to the Waffle House for the All-Star Breakfast Sampler, the waitress is likely going to call you baby or sweetie. I know all of this sounds like it's made up and over-dramatized, but that really is the culture here in Georgia, especially in South Georgia and in more rural areas. Since there have been so many people from all over the country move to the city and its surrounding suburbs, it's becoming more of a melting pot, and that Southern charm is tamed down just a bit. Sometimes people from other parts of the country think it's weird or maybe even a little annoying that they feel like they have to interact with strangers so often. If you are a very reserved person and don't like human interaction, Georgia might not be the place for you. I would not want to move to Georgia if I was dead set on not being in a community with an HOA. Now, you can find homes that are not in an HOA community, but I would say that over 2/3 of the houses in the areas that I serve, they're going to be in a neighborhood with an HOA. Now, one thing to note that is different about HOAs in Georgia than in other states is the price. I recently mentioned in an article I read that talked about states with the highest average HOA fees, and I was so shocked to see how much money people are spending per month in other states. Unless you are in an active adult community or a gated neighborhood with a country club here in Georgia, you can expect to pay around $500 to $1,200 annually in HOA fees. According to the article, people in Missouri are paying on average $461 a month in HOA fees. Arizona averages $448, and we all know the master plan communities in Florida come with crazy prices ranging from $100 to $500 a month. You are not going to be paying these hefty monthly fees unless you specifically seek out a neighborhood intentionally for its extravagant amenities, in which case you probably already know that you're going to be paying for this and you would find value in that. The whole point of an HOA is to help a neighborhood maintain its value, and the goal is not really to tell you how to live your life and tell you what to do with the property you own. People get very defensive very quickly about not wanting to be in a HOA, which if you need to build a separate garage or a workshop, or you want to park an RV at your home, obviously this is a scenario where we're going to avoid homes in an HOA. But if you just don't want to be told what to do, you're really going to limit your options. Again, you can find properties that are in an HOA, but oftentimes they are right off the road or not in the best location. But that is going to be a major difference between neighborhoods and homes not in a neighborhood. Obviously, someone comes in, clears the land, and makes a private area for a whole neighborhood. So the location is most likely going to be more ideal than an individual home that is kind of plopped right down in the middle of the road. If you're looking for significant acreage, which here we would classify about 5 acres or more, you're not going to have a whole lot of options. Again, you can find this a lot in South Georgia, but here in the North Metro area, it's going to be a challenge. It's not impossible, it's just going to be a harder mission with a much more expensive price tag. Another reason that I might not want to move to Georgia if I never lived here would be because, well, sometimes Georgia can seem like a pretty boring state. When you hear people talk about Georgia, your brain doesn't think beaches like it does when someone says that they live in Florida. It also doesn't say skiing on the mountains like it does when someone says Colorado. Obviously, people think of Atlanta, but it's not like what you would think of New York City. You don't hear many people going on a fun trip to Atlanta like you would do NYC. I think people assume that there is not much to do in Georgia and that it's a pretty boring state. As someone who lives here, I've got to disagree, especially if you live up in North Georgia and you have access to all the great amenities that we have. You can head down to Atlanta for a fancy dinner at one of the many incredible restaurants. You can head to a concert at State Farm Arena, an Atlanta United soccer game at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, a festival at Piedmont Park, and the list goes on. We've also got Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, which, fun fact, is the world's busiest airport. And if you've been through it, you know that is a busy, busy airport. The Atlanta airport is the primary hub for Delta Airlines, and it's also a focus city for Frontier Airlines and Southwest. This means you can get virtually anywhere in the world from our airport, and most flights are direct. I was traveling the other day on a Thursday, which is a particularly busy day for travel, and one of the attendants was saying that 86,000 people would travel through the airport that day. It's a crazy amount of people. But having this massive airport is so convenient. Georgia isn't known for its beaches and mountains, but we do have both. The North Georgia mountains sit at the base of the Blue Ridge Mountains, which is part of the Appalachian Mountains. Fall here feels like something out of a Hallmark movie. You can go to one of the many wineries for a wine tasting, shop at cute little stores in towns like Dahlonega, or go for a hike and just drive around and enjoy the fall foliage. Or if the beach is more your theme, you could head down to Savannah to check out Tybee Island, or you can go over to St. Simon's or Jekyll Island. Now, Georgia doesn't have a huge coastline, but you can still go down and enjoy these beaches. We've got plenty of things to do here and easy access to all of these great things. The last reason I would consider never moving to Georgia would be if I absolutely loved snowy winters or hated warm weather. I know some people are huge winter weather fans and they love snow and being able to do winter sports. But if I'm honest, I don't know who wants to shovel snow off their driveway for several months out of the year, but I know people who enjoy that heavy winter weather. I also know that a lot of people move here looking for a break from it. At most, here in the North Metro Atlanta area, we usually get one snow day a year. It shuts everything down. All of the stores run out of bread and milk and no one goes anywhere for like 24 hours. And then the next day, the snow melts. And when I say snow, y'all, it's just like some flurries that barely stick to the ground and we get very excited about it. But usually it's all melted very quickly and it's 60 degrees the next day. This year, we didn't have a single snow day, but we did see some below freezing temperatures, which is not the norm here. We do have a lot of warm weather. Our summer is long and takes up a big portion of the year, but we do have nice spring, summers, and short winters. This is great if you like to have different seasons, but unlike Florida, you aren't a big fan of the extreme year-long heat. So what do you think? Would you ever consider moving to Georgia? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you are, I would love to be your real estate agent. You can find my contact information below this video. Make sure you're also subscribed to our newsletter to stay up to date on what's going on here in Georgia. You can find the link for that right below this video. And if you haven't already, make sure you check out this video if you are thinking about making a move to Georgia.